Hi, I'm Chrissy. Welcome to Pursuit of Momming. On March 20th, I had a baby girl, Rachel Cynthia. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about her birth story. I was able to go to a birth center and have a natural labor and birth, which was much different from my experience with my first. My birth team consisted of a midwife, a nurse, my husband, and a doula. So in this video, I'm going to have my doula join me in recounting my birth story. If you don't know what a doula is, she's going to explain that.
I am Cami. I am a certified birth doula. And so when I come to a birth, I don't do anything medical. I just am there to support emotionally, physically, and give like back rubs and things like that. And then anytime you have questions about things, I help you get the information that you need to be able to make an informed decision. So I love going to births. I love supporting women through it. And this was a really special birth. It was so great to be there with you.
Yeah, it was great to have you there from the start with the way things panned out. So I guess I'll start there with the birth story.
Yeah.
So I was sleeping, then I felt something wet in the bed and between my legs and like a little bit slimy, like definitely not urine.
Right.
And it was strange because I didn't have this experience with my firstborn, with Jonah.
Right.
So I didn't really know what it would feel like, but I figured, what else could it be? It's 4 days until my due date, and there's this unusual liquid in the bed.
Yeah, there's really only one explanation for that.
Yeah. And then I went to the bathroom and got a better look and feel and decided, okay, I think I need to call the midwife and call Cami. Told the midwife what happened, what it felt like, that it didn't smell, it didn't have any particular color to it, just a little bit of the bloody show from the mucus plug, which is normal. And there were no contractions yet. And she told me that they would probably start in a few hours. Mm-hmm. And at that point it was 2 a.m. So if they didn't start until by 10, they wanted me to call the midwives again. Mm-hmm. And thankfully I was able to go back to sleep. And so were you.
Yeah. Yes, that was really nice for both of us. I was able to shower and come in just like, I think you had joked, it was like a normal work day. We just showed up there in the morning.
Well, not usually how off to work.
Exactly.
Oh, and I was shaky too when that happened, when my water broke. I don't know if it was from the hormones or just from the excitement.
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely like an adrenaline surge at that point.
I think it was just my outer membrane that broke then, because later on there was another bigger gush.
Right. Yep, that's pretty common as well.
Yeah. So then I got some sleep, had some bowel movements throughout the night. Right. Another telltale sign that labor's coming. Nothing really progressed that I could feel by 10 a.m. So I called the midwife and she gave me some suggestions, which I was a little bit overwhelmed by.
Yeah, and it was a lot to take in too, just like knowing that you were on the time clock at that point as well.
Right. Just being in the position where, okay, I got to make some calls now and figure out what the next steps are. it's definitely a good thing that that was sort of left up to me to figure out what I wanted to do, but also a little bit like, because I'm not good at making decisions.
Right.
So that's probably when I called you, sometime between that phone call and later on. I was probably laying on the couch crying about it for a little bit.
Yeah, which is good. I think that I had talked a little bit too about trying to release some of that emotion, because I think it's really easy in early labor to like hold so many emotions in, and that can kind of slow things down because you are like holding on to all of these really heavy emotions. So that's really good that you were able to cry about it a little bit.
Yeah, I was just laying there talking to John, telling him, oh, what if none of this stuff works? What if I need to go to the hospital and get Pitocin and get an epidural and get a C-section? And none of these things are bad, but when you have certain expectations for your birth plan and things go far off course, that's
right.
Just personally not what was desired for me, and I was really hoping that this birth would feel better than my first one. Yeah, then you came over and we got a nice atmosphere going with the clary sage, and both for emotions and hormones, right?
Yep, it can help stimulate contractions as well.
Did some of those labor techniques to get things going that way?
Yeah, I think we did the Miles Circuit, which is, you can find that at milescircuit.com. But it's a series of 3 different positions that you do to try to help get the baby in a better position to try to help stimulate and bring on stronger contractions. So I think that was the main thing we went through. And then we also just like turned down the lights, and you were resting for a little while, watching a movie with Jonah. So yeah, just try to kind of get the tone set to be able to go into labor.
Yeah, and I think that definitely made a difference, because with my labor with Jonah, I was probably a little bit more high strung and like resisting the contractions and just physically tense. So whenever the contractions were happening, they probably weren't doing very much except causing me discomfort.
Yep. Yeah, it's so great when you can start off in a relaxed state of mind and body.
And then watching those videos on the 2 main things that were suggested by the midwife was helpful as well, to help me be able to really process through what the options were with castor oil and nipple stimulation.
Right.
And I think I had already started taking the homeopathics. I figured that was easy enough.
Right. Yep. Yes. We watched the evidence-based birth videos on both of those topics, which is a great site that has just all of the data and the research, and just kind of presents it in a non-biased way. And then I think that helped me too, just be able to process these 2 options and kind of go forward. I think it seemed to give you a lot of confidence by the end of watching that, to be able to make a decision.
Mm-hmm. And the castor oil sounded a little bit unpleasant, not the actual consumption part, but the side effects of all the pooping.
Right. Exactly.
But I figured, hey, if that's the worst thing that can happen from it, and the best thing being it gets things going, I might as well. And I had lunch.
Exactly. You had to eat anyways.
Yeah. the midwife wanted me to be at the birth center if we were going to be doing the nipple stimulation to check on the baby's heart rate, I think, to make sure that it didn't happen too intensely.
Yeah, and keep an eye on the contractions as well, just because every now and then it can like hyperstimulate the uterus where you have too many contractions at once. That was kind of the main reason I think she wanted you to come in for that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then when I got there, I was surprised by how regular my contractions actually were, because they just like the intensity hadn't kicked in yet.
Right.
But the frequency, I guess, had, which again is so different from my experience with Jonah, because when they kicked in, like it was full, it felt like it was in full swing with the intensity, but ones just felt like Braxton Hicks, like a little bit of tightening. Oh, there's a contraction. Okay, it's done.
Yeah, it was nice. Although Lauren, the midwife, definitely said that they felt strong to her. So that was encouraging to be able to have a couple hours of more mild but still effective contractions.
Yeah, I hear all these moms, well, not tons of them, but I've heard enough moms say, oh, I had an easy labor, and I'm like, oh, that must be nice. But in retrospect, a good chunk of this was a pretty easy labor, even though it was a little bit uneasy as far as my nerves go in the beginning.
Right.
I think once I was at the birth center, getting the like affirmation that things were going well, things were progressing, helped me feel a lot better.
Yeah. You seemed to be pretty calm, and seemed like you knew what you were doing, and you were able to just kind of work through the contractions pretty much on your own. So it seemed like you were confident and doing well through that part.
And I was only 1 centimeter dilated when we got there, but that progressed pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was cool to be there for the whole process, because normally I don't come until more closer to active labor. So it was cool to watch all the way from 1 centimeter to the end. So that was special for me.
Typically, do they have people come in situations like mine where they need to get things moving along?
Yes. Yep. That's usually what they would do. And it totally depends on the care provider for how long they let you, or they would ask you to wait before you come in. So some doctors are more like, as soon as your water breaks, you should come in and try to get things going. Other home birth midwives are comfortable letting you go a lot longer before you would try to do things to get stuff going. So it just kind of depends. Your midwives kind of fall in the middle. And that's partially too because of being at the birth center, there's state rules to follow as well. So they had you come in, it was like the 8 or 9 hour mark, something like that.
Yeah.
So that's fairly common.
And in case anyone's wondering, the nipple stimulation involved an electric breast pump.
Right.
Dawn was a little bit unsure what that would mean.
Yeah, there's multiple ways to do that, I guess. Yeah. But it's definitely the more like controlled.
Yeah.
It's just, the pump doing its work. So
I didn't have to pay too much attention to it. Just stuck it on and ate my lunch.
Right, exactly. It was a good time for lunch for all of us.
Switching sides every 15 minutes, and I think we did like 6 rounds of it, maybe. Or
3 times on each side.
Yeah. And then that's when we moved to the lounge. That's one of the things that I've been telling people I liked about the birth center is that you're not confined to one tiny little room. You can wander around your room. You can wander around this lounge area with a nice fireplace and couches and a play area if you have kids and there isn't a pandemic happening.
Right. Right.
Going up and down the stairs, the little downstairs birth lounge.
Go outside too, which is nice.
So I have in your notes that we did the stairs and crawling and the rebozo sifting, lunges, cat-cow, pelvic tilts. I shared these notes with a friend of mine because she loves to hear about birth stories, and she asked about the crawling, and she said, "Was John laughing at you doing that?" And I said, "No, he just kind of looked bored."
Yeah.
But I said that I figured that the crawling and things like that were to help allow gravity to let the baby move around and get into position as the contractions were happening.
Yeah, definitely. And being forward leaning on your hands and knees lets the baby be able to get into an anterior position, which is when her belly or her back is towards your belly. And just kind of, it moves the pelvis in a totally different way, which allows for her to move down as well.
I don't think I ever felt any back labor going on with this pregnancy, not even with Braxton Hicks. I remember feeling Jonah sunny side up a few times when I was pregnant with him, and I was driving one time and I had to pull over because it was so uncomfortable, just the Braxton Hicks.
Yeah, it seemed, I was just thinking about that too, because a lot of times I do like hip squeezes or counter pressure for like every contraction for my clients. And you didn't, I mean, you liked that. It seemed to help a little bit, but it wasn't something that it seemed like you needed to have.
I pretty much just needed to be able to lean on something or someone.
Right, exactly.
Or John. And the swaying was probably one of my favorite positions to be in during contractions, especially if it got a lot more intense.
Right.
Just both from like the physical relief and just the emotional comfort of being in his arms was relaxing.
Yeah, it was definitely a very instinctual place to be. I see that a lot, and it was seemed to be really helpful for you.
And at least one of those times when I was swaying with him, I just felt like a wave of emotions come over me. Just thinking about how it was when the contractions were really starting to kick in, and it was starting to sink in. Okay, this is happening. The time is near.
Right.
There's no turning back. Jonah's gonna be a big brother. I'm gonna be like really facing this labor naturally for the first time. And it's going to be a new baby that we're going to be adjusting to. Our lives are going to be totally different. And also just feeling so grateful for John's support and the whole birth team, just like so many emotions.
Yeah, that's really sweet though. Because that's a good like moment to look back on and know like your life really changed in that moment.
So I think by 6 o'clock is when active labor was really happening?
Yeah, so there was a moment where I walked into the room and John was like nodding off. I could tell he was getting pretty tired. And I felt like you seemed like you were starting to get pretty tired too. And so that's when I had suggested just laying down, let me leave the room, give you guys some time, just the two of you, to lay down and rest. And that was at about 6 o'clock. And when I came back in to check on you at 6:30, there was definitely a difference in the room. You could tell like the contractions were suddenly a lot stronger. So yeah, I would say somewhere in that 6 to 6:30 range is when things kind of got really real.
Yeah. The magic of resting with the peanut ball.
Right, exactly. The peanut ball. And I think also just like being left alone, you know, being by yourself and with John, I feel like that could have done it too. Just like no distractions, that, you know, quiet, dim lighting, all of that can really help. That we call it, I was just reading about this, there's a site called the Matrona, which is by a woman named Wapio. She's a midwife, and she calls it entering the veil, where you like, there's like a veil in between the regular world and then the like labor land world. And a woman kind of just at some point in her labor approaches the veil and decides to go through. And that's when she's really in it. She's in it. There's no turning back at that point. So it feels like somewhere in there you were able to really focus in, and things just kind of changed. So that was really cool for me, to see the difference. Yeah, I know. I love that visual.
Yeah. I also sort of felt like a cat. Like how when cats get wounded, they kind of like go into hiding.
Yeah, no. Well, have you read is it Ina May? No, it's the hypnobirthing book.
No,
have you read? There's actually a chapter in that book called Giving Birth Like a Cat. And
okay.
It's the same idea of like when a cat is about to give birth, they like go far away and find their own little safe place and kind of hide away and do their thing. So that's funny that you say that.
Leave me alone, I got things to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely by the end of that nap, I was really feeling those contractions. And I remember thinking, oh no, did she get into a bad position? Because they're like really intense now. But I guess that's just how it was going to be at that point.
Right.
And, I was starting to feel her like bearing down a little bit, like on my cervix. That was like right before we got into the tub, I think, when I started really feeling her like trying to push her way down. I think I was starting to feel nauseous at that point too, or a little bit after. I don't remember if I was nauseous before I got in the tub or while I was in the tub. But I remember the bowl coming out.
That's right. Oh, yes. So I remember you were in the tub when we said, oh, let's go get the bowl.
Case.
Right.
Oh, please don't throw up.
Right. Yeah. You were definitely in the tub already.
So that was probably close to the start of transition.
Yeah. Yep. I had down that you got in the tub at about 8 o'clock. And it seemed like there was definitely a change to that.
I remember getting into position whenever contraction would happen, just wondering how I'm gonna get through it with each contraction that came at that point. And I think that's probably when I was pretty much screaming through every contraction.
Yeah, no, you never really screamed like high pitched scream. I don't think you were loud, and that is okay. But you had good like low moaning noises, which is perfect. But no, I thought you did great. I thought the low moaning, and even though it was loud, like that's perfect. If that's what gets you through it, that's what you should do.
Yeah. I definitely couldn't keep quiet with how I was feeling. I would have just gotten way too tense.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful and very helpful for a lot of women.
Then at 8:40 in your notes, Chrissy says, I have to poop, but like really poop. I was convinced because I had pooped so much from that castor oil.
Right. Yeah, we were like, okay, go for it.
What you do, hon?
Uh-huh.
But if you want to sit on the toilet right now, go right ahead.
I think you were there for like 7 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. That's what I have down.
And my inner membrane broke while I was sitting on the toilet. I remember that.
Oh, right. There was kind of like it kind of surprised you.
Yeah. I was like, oh, my water broke.
Right.
Again.
Yeah. I think it might have surprised John too. And then, yeah, there was just all of a sudden you had another contraction, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were kind of like, oh, something's going on.
Yeah. And Lauren asked, oh, so is this where you want to give birth? Because her head's coming out. And I was like, oh, okay. I literally remember saying that pretty much just like that.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Maybe a little bit more tired than how I am right now.
Right.
Between some pretty intense contractions at that point. But I really didn't think it was time yet. I thought that I would have to go through a lot more contractions before we got to that point.
Yeah, that was a really nice surprise.
Yeah.
She had told me, Lauren told me, at some point when I was outside of your room, kind of in that time period when things were starting to get a little more intense, she said, she's like, I have a feeling she's gonna just all of a sudden dilate and go. Like it's just gonna be really quick all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So she was right.
Because it was what, like 7 or 8 hours that it took me to go from 1 centimeter to birth.
Yeah, because when we got there, it was 1:30 when they checked you, and you were 1, and you had the baby just before 9 o'clock. So what is that? Like, yeah, 7.5 hours that you went all the way, which is really great. That's why we always say, like, dilation isn't everything. It's not like gonna tell you how far it's gonna be before you have your baby. So
yeah. And Don was impressed that there was only the one cervix check.
Yeah.
And I said that I probably could have gotten more if I wanted more, but I didn't. And Lauren is skilled in what she does and could just tell by my attitude and just seeing me work through the contractions, tell where I was in my labor.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It was very clear that like every hour or so they just got a little more intense and a little more intense. Do you remember her talking about the purple line?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you know about that before?
Yeah. I'd heard about that, and I'm not really sure why it is. I was wondering if it was because of the way the head might be pressing against the spine.
Right. Yeah, as the baby moves down, there's that purple line that goes up through, and she said she could definitely see that you had a purple line coming up. So she didn't feel like she needed to check you, which is really, it's always nice when you only have to do that one time.
Yeah. John thought that that little tip was cool too, and he shared it with my parents, and my stepdad's like, la 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 la.
Yeah, that is a lot of information.
I was like, can you not?
Right.
I mean, I'm happy sharing it here because people watching this video are going to be interested in knowing this stuff.
Right, exactly.
But then I was only pushing for about 10 minutes probably.
Pretty much. It was pretty fast. About from the time she said she could see the head when you were still on the toilet, and then yeah, it was about 10 minutes before you had her.
Yeah. And that's something I was nervous about going into a natural birth, because I had felt contractions before with Jonah's birth, but I had never felt the ring of fire before. And I also knew that some women can be pushing for a really long time.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that I was already crowning
Right,
when I was
exactly.
in the toilet probably helped make it so that I wouldn't be pushing for that long.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I know there are some models that say like don't push until you can see the head, which is pretty much what you did. You had some pushing before that, but not like real strong urges, I don't think.
Yeah. I don't remember feeling like I needed to push, aside from feeling like I needed to poop.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so that's really cool. That was really cool for me to see too. Just how you were able, like your body was able to just bring her down pretty much all by itself, and then you just had to push for the last little part. That was really cool.
Yeah. And I remember feeling frustrated that it was taking longer than I expected it to get her head out, but more so to get her body out, because Jonah's came out so easily. But that was probably because of the way that he was delivered was different.
Right.
With the episiotomy and the vacuum and the reaching in.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there.
But I remember just like feeling her in there, and it was just like really tight and really intense, but like not really burning.
Yeah.
And I think the tub was a huge help with that. I think that was the main thing that made me decide, yes, I definitely want to birth in the tub, because of the fact that it softens your skin and gives you more buoyancy and all of that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And the heat probably helps too, helps relax your muscles and everything.
Right, yeah, definitely.
But I remember just like pushing and pushing and thinking, why isn't she coming out?
Yeah, which is so funny when you look like, oh, it was only 10 minutes, but it was intense there for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And like in the moment, you don't know how much longer it's going to be.
Right, yeah.
Or like if she's gonna pop back in.
Right.
Because I mean, I know with the head there is a little bit of going out and going in, and I didn't really know at what point her head was completely out. I don't even remember if I reached down and felt her at any point, but I do remember that I couldn't actually guide her out because I had like gone into this crab position.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I think you like were like almost on your knees, and then you decided to go back the other way too. So yeah, I remember you saying, I can't reach her.
And John's reaction was helpful too.
Yeah, he got so excited. It was so fun to watch.
Yeah. He told me that he hammed it up a little bit just to like give me motivation, and I was like, okay.
No, I think he was really excited. I think he was almost as like shocked and surprised too. Like I think he was just really floored that her head was right there all of a sudden.
Yeah. It goes from being pregnant to, oh, there's actually a tiny human.
Right. Yeah, it's always a surprise. I mean, it's not, but it is. It just is always like, wow, that is incredible.
I loved being able to immediately hold her in the tub, and it was so cool holding her while she was still connected to the umbilical cord. I didn't get that experience with Jonah since they had to make sure that he didn't have any meconium in his lungs.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
I did get to hold him pretty soon after, but it was really special to be able to have her on the outside while she's still connected to me.
Yeah, such an interesting experience.
Yeah. And just that moment of, oh, everything's done except the placenta, but you still get a pretty good break.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's always such a special moment for sure.
Then I did realize that, oh, I still need to deliver the placenta. I hope all of that goes well. I hope it all comes out in one piece and I don't hemorrhage or anything like that. But that all went fine, thankfully. I just keep telling everybody how both of my births were really hard in different ways. Yeah. And I really appreciate having both experiences. But I definitely liked this experience better, just simply because of how I felt at the end of it and how I feel looking back at it. Just feeling empowered and the calm atmosphere and people who were knowledgeable and supportive and kind, and there were only a few people involved. It wasn't like a revolving door of unfamiliar faces.
Right.
The only person that changed was the nurse when it went from the day nurse to the night nurse. And they were both really sweet.
Yeah, there's great nurses there at the birth center. I love them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm so glad for you that you were able to have a really empowering experience, and that you were the one in charge, the whole time. You were the one birthing your baby, and everyone treated you really, really well. So I'm thankful for you too, that you were able to experience all of that. And it was such a good birth for me to witness. Of course, I love all the births I go to, but this one was really special, and it was just great to see how well you did. You were so strong, and you just kept going. There wasn't really a point where you seemed like you couldn't do it. Like you just kept going and going and going and getting stronger throughout the whole thing. So it was really great to watch.
Yeah. Thankfully, it didn't last too long. I don't know if that attitude would have continued if I had more challenging labor or birth. But I was grateful for how things progressed, in addition to the support I had. And I tell everybody, if you can't go to a birth center, or if you don't want to have a midwife, have a doula. Because she or he will have all sorts of knowledge and support to be able to give you. They can help enable your birth partner. to support you, step in when your birth partner needs a break, taking turns, helping you think through your options and decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So I was really grateful for you, and it was really special knowing you as a friend as well.
That always makes it a little extra special, I think.
Do you want to say some of the other things that you offer?
So I am currently teaching a childbirth class at the birth center. I do that once a month for all of the birth center clients, and I'm looking into making my own online course for that. And then the other part of my business is fertility education. So I teach women fertility awareness, how to understand their cycles, and we look at that really in depth so that they can either use that information to achieve pregnancy or avoid pregnancy naturally, or to just understand their bodies as they go through the reproductive continuum from puberty to menopause. So I really enjoy what I do. I love being a doula, love getting to go to births, and love working with women and supporting them throughout the entire process.
And I love sharing fertility awareness method with friends as well.
Yeah,
it's helped me both preventative and conceiving.
Yeah,
for several years.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it's such a great tool to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, and it's great to know how your body works before you're at the point where you want to conceive.
Yeah, definitely. I always love when you tell people that, because that's what I'm always trying to get people to understand.
Yeah.
So you want to know this before you need it.
Well, I guess that's everything that we'll talk about.
Alrighty, perfect.
Thank you so much for joining me. And
yeah, thanks for having me. This was so fun.
I hope you found this video interesting. If you like to hear birth stories, or if you haven't heard many birth stories before, I hope you found it informative. If you're considering a natural birth, I hope it encouraged you. And as I mentioned, everybody's experience is different. Everybody's circumstances are different. There is no situation or choice that's better than the other. But I'm really grateful for the experience that I had and how positive it felt for me. I'll try to keep up with posting videos with a newborn. I'll probably do videos on breastfeeding and getting your baby to sleep, some baby items that we love. So I hope you'll subscribe to see those videos. Let me know in the comments what kind of births you had or what kind of births you hope for. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.